Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, position battles are a-raging at some premier spots for the Red Raiders. Which one are we feeling good about in particular, regardless of the outcome? We're into it next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus every day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So visit FanDuel.com to get started with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you and back talking Red Raider football. Before we get out of here, we will take a glimpse at the AP Top 25 poll released yesterday and some of those from the Big 12 Conference that are getting a mention, but also want to go back to Texas Tech fall camp and get to some sound from Tech head coach Joey McGuire pertaining to some position battles and competitions that are continuing to play out. And these are at some premier spots, I would say, in all three phases of the game, along the offensive line, along inside the defensive box with the star outside linebacker-ish defensive back hybrid type of position. And your field goal kicker actually has a battle that is playing out. Maybe not something that we necessarily anticipated, but let's start up front offensively, Chris, and it is at the left tackle spot where you're seeing some things happen between Sterling, don't call me Porcher, call me Porsche, and one Dalton Merriman. And I thought this was really interesting to hear, sort of tied into what I thought was interesting about this offseason, in that the left tackle spot I didn't feel like was discussed all that much. Obviously a premier spot for any team. And you're, I guess, kind of penciling in up to the point of fall camp a newcomer in Porsche as far as an addition there. And I don't know if he was cemented or not. But then you have an injury wrinkle kind of added to this conversation, as he's not able to begin fall camp in the way that we hope. So I'm kind of wondering, as Merriman now factors in, do you think that the competition was always sort of inevitable as we got to the fall, but maybe just sort of under-discussed earlier in the offseason? Was the injury storyline a bigger factor in it than some might be understanding, and that's why the competition is playing out? Merriman just making a big push. I mean, I'm trying to come up with all kinds of reasons as to why this is sort of arriving here now. What do you make of this?
How many times did we say, I don't know, between April and mid-July, things can and will change with certain situations once you get into camp?
A lot.
And here is, right in your lap. And it doesn't mean that you won't end camp or start the game the way that you entered fall camp with, but it maybe got to that point, like a different route, like, oh, made a wrong turn, but we ended up in the right spot. Who knows? That's the thing about football, man, is like injuries or availability it just dictates. And this is why there's coaches were fighting for 105 guys to be available on a roster, next year. And why there's 120-ish now, because you need options, you need depth, football's a tough deal. So Dalton Merriman was always a guy at tackle that had some possibilities. He was a junior college guy that came in from Blinn, I believe, a year ago. He's been on campus. I think I'm right here. If my timetable is slightly off, forgive me, but I think this was an addition in May a year ago. Okay, so after spring, Dalton Merriman came in a year ago, and then he was here all last summer and then last season, everything. And I think there was a minor injury that kind of kept him out. But when they got him, it was like, dude, I think we got us one here. He's got some measurables we've kind of overlooked. We're not sure why. He checks a lot of boxes for us. And again, you're trying to, the tackle thing is difficult to try to find the good ones. And so when there's somebody out there that can move, that's 6'7", 300 plus, you got to take some chances on occasion. And Dalton's a great kid. I want to say, matter of fact, I want to say that there may be a family member, maybe even a parent that listens to this particular show. If that is the case, shout out to the Merrimans out there.
That's right. Salute.
That's right. Yeah, salute is definitely right.
And could that factor into his ability to win a starting job? Possibly. So we need the Porsche family maybe to saddle up as well.
And speaking of, I work with Brian Nance's significant other.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know this, but yeah, I guess Brian listens to our show all the time, or watches it all the time too. So shout out to Coach Nance, and shout out to Ariel out there.
The brain trust.
That's right. That's right. As I've told both of them, I hope Brian is still here next year. Like, please, somebody don't come scoop him away and take him away from Coach Blanche and the rest of us here. We like kind of the Batman and Robin thing you guys have got going.
No doubt. And if you're considering any other destination, first checked out their Locked On show. Is it as good as this one? I mean, that may be something that would factor into the decision. So just throwing it out there.
Guarantee that it's not.
Just throwing that out there.
Decision already made. Yeah, that's right. So, but with Dalton and Sterling Porsche and Marquise Rodriguez, and just trying to figure out tackle in general. This is part of somebody missing a week, availability, and then somebody maybe takes advantage of some reps, and then Porsche works his way back in, and we'll just kind of see. We'll just kind of see where things take us in the next, because it feels like you're still, even though we're you're just over 2.5 weeks away from the opener, which feels like not very long, but it feels like an eternity too. So 3 weeks from this past Saturday, whenever you open up against ACU. So we'll kind of see where things look as we get into, because you're getting closer to where you gotta, you kind of can see the game plan week, like off into the distance, like, okay, this is the group we're going to roll with. Let's put the starters with the starters. Let's start teaching them what ACU is going to do and all those things. And you want to start to make some decisions here fairly quickly, but you've got another week or so, but not too long. But I'm happy for Dalton. I hope Sterling is okay. You just want, you want some possibilities. And then Jackson Hughes is a name that came in here that's also, again, 6'8", 6'7", 330 plus, can move, got some experience. You just can't have enough guys like that if they've got experience under their belt, because things happen and you need big people on the edges of your lines to protect the franchise that is typically a starting quarterback in college.
That's right. And I guess, I don't know, I may just be telling myself this because I want to believe that good things are going to be resulting from this competition. But with a newcomer being so seemingly quickly, and again, I won't say cemented, but penciled in as a left tackle, I was kind of thinking throughout the offseason, like, okay, what are the options here? A, the dude is really, really good. So that's why it was so easy to make that call. Or B, nobody behind him is making any noise. Like there's not even a question, because some other dude is showing out a little bit. There's not even a question that there could be another option. Now, it's not that black and white because of the injury aspect of the storyline, obviously, but I'm not mad to have a little competition playing out here, and I'm not mad for a guy like Merriman to be maybe turning some heads, and we'll see how it plays out by the time we get to August 31st. Of course, we'll see it play out before that because we'll have some game week preparation. So as Coach McGuire has alluded to, they'll want to know who their best 5 guys are that they feel like riding with before then into game number 1.
And I think I did this on a recent show that we did about Jacoby Williams and shorted him an inch. I think Dalton Merriman's actually 6'9".
Okay, let's get that right. We don't want a 6'9" guy upset with us.
That's what I'm saying. I think I mentioned 6'7", 6'8", because I'm like, and I just looked in front of me and I think 6'9". So yeah, Merriman's. I apologize. I didn't want to screw that up. So
that's right. Okay, let's get to another battle that I think is at a premier spot as well, Chris. This one on the defensive side of the football, and that is at the star position, which is sort of a linebacker and or defensive back hybrid, which is why I think it's really one of the premier spots on your team, because if you get a special one, a guy can really cover a lot of bases as far as what he can do either at the line of scrimmage or potentially in the backfield, or what he can do in coverage. And you've had some guys come through that were really impactful. Muddy Waters, I thought, did a really great job for Texas Tech at that spot. I thought CJ Baskerville, as we talked about this offseason, may have been a little out of position as far as the measurables when he was asked to play that spot, but doing what was best for the team. Now he's a little further back on the back end, I think, at the boundary safety position. But it's an important spot and one that can really be a difference maker for Tim DeRuyter's defense. And you got a couple of guys that are competing for that role as we are rolling through fall camp, that being A.J. McCarty and Brendan B.J. Jordan. Let's take a listen to Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire talking about that battle. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And summertime means baseball, burgers, and money in the bank when you're picking a winner with FanDuel. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer by beating the heat with a refreshing parlay. An over-under play, or by getting the moneyline mojo working. Visit FanDuel.com and make a splash by adding a big win to your summer bucket list with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. That being A.J. McCarty and Brendan B.J. Jordan. Let's take a listen to Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire talking about that battle.
I feel great about both of them first. If I started tomorrow and we were going out and we were starting the game, I would say A.J. would be the starter going out, but I feel really good about both of them. They both do some really good things. AJ does a really good job in coverage, and then he's a really good blitzer. I mean, he does a really good job. He's very sudden, and he takes great angles. And then BJ, he's got a little bit more experience in this defense, playing last year, and then he's 210 pounds. So, lining up over a tight end, being physical on the edge, setting edges is kind of what he's really good at.
And you can just hear the answer right there, sort of what we're describing. Like some guys maybe a little bit more geared toward some coverage. He also mentions McCarty as a good blitzer, come through skinny, get out thick. I think I heard DeRuyter use that phrase before. Also very sudden, he was described as. I think I heard my wife use that phrase before. And then you can talk about a guy like Brendan Jordan, measurables wise, that maybe can be a little bit more physical with the tight end or setting the edge. So having it all in one guy is nice. That's probably a rare package. But, man, I'm really curious to see how this one plays out through the fall because it is one of the most valuable spots, I think, on the team.
Yeah, sudden and package. There's all kinds of innuendo going on here. I both of these guys are going to play. I tell you what, my biggest question about this spot is who's third? Because I think Jordan and McCarty are both going to play. It could be situational. But you're picking up what Joey's trying to put down. Like if this is more down in distance and it's more passing situation, it's probably somebody like McCarty. If it's more short yardage or red zone, it could potentially be somebody like Jordan because he's bigger and thicker. If the field is shrunk. And so maybe you can play to their strengths depending on down and distance, if that's the way Tim would want to do it. Or he may say, no, he's the starter. He needs to be out there all the time. But if you wanted to play it situationally, you've got, guys that can do some different things or suited to do different things better. I'd be curious to know who was third because this is where Dingle was kind of talked about as a possibility. But now it's some outside linebacker. I still think he's on the mend a bit, but he's. I'd love to send his. He's a maniac, and if he could pick up the scheme there, because there's a lot on the Stars' plate. I think schematically, they've got a lot of responsibility. I think on their plate as far as what is asked of them individually, and it's a harder position than some to pick up. I'll just say that, but. You're in a good spot here. I mean, and we talked about A.J. McCarty a lot when he got here, and we kept mentioning him as camp last year kept going because we hadn't heard a ruling. Like, okay, you could have a possible starting DB get dropped in your lap, and we're just holding out hope. And then finally when you get that stamped and it's like, okay, he's out. You're like, damn. So then we kind of forgot about him until – I guess the bowl game, and we've talked about that some, but no, this is a guy that played about 30 games at Baylor. He's got tons of experience at the Big 12 level. However, BJ Jordan is the one that's got a lot of experience in this defense here in Lubbock last year as a true freshman. So but you're in a good spot there, man. That's the least of my worries. But I am curious who, in a game situation, even if somebody's not practicing there now, if you get down to it, because don't forget, you got to a situation last year where you were missing so many stars, or you had to maneuver your pieces around, that Cam Watts, basically like your fourth corner, like, we're going to put him at star. We don't have anybody else. He's big enough and sturdy enough he could hold up, but we've only got a few practices in to really teach him. So you don't want to ever think about something like that and getting a bind there. So I would be curious who's third and maybe even fourth. But that answer may be different in who's repping in practices, and then if a game got here, who they would put over there.
Let's get into another battle, this one in the special teams phase of the game. And I don't know, maybe somewhat unexpected to have the battle plan out in the way that it has, but this is regarding your kicking game, whether Gino Garcia or Reese Burkhart will be the guy that gets the call. And again, just comments and or thoughts that are based upon what's happened through the weekend and that first scrimmage that you will hear here once again from Tech head coach Joey McGuire.
Hey, today, just off of my going through it, Gino won the day. They both had some kicks that were 40, plus yards. With our kicks, we're trying to be, 80+% when you start talking about 47 yards, kind of that's the mark. I know Reese missed one. I don't know what the distance was. I want to say it was a 40-yarder, and I think Gino hit all of his. So if it was going today, I think coming into this, Reese kind of had a little bit of a lead. I think Gino, won the day whenever you're looking. That's one thing that I'm trying to do in every moment of every practice, finding ways, like I'll end and act like I'm starting to talk and just yell Mayday. We are trying to put as much pressure for two reasons. Number one, we want to create competition, but number two, Reese has earned the right to be in a battle with Gino, and we want to make sure we have the best kicker out there.
I'll tell you what, that got my attention. He's talking about Gino winning the day on Saturday, but that Burkhart possibly had the edge coming into the weekend. Maybe something I was sleeping on a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Gino's losing his job. I just think opinion. I think this is, you're trying to keep both guys engaged. I think you're trying to basically not let Gino get complacent. I think that Reese is an older guy that has done nothing but good things here with what he's been asked to do, and he provides great insurance. I just can't imagine with the way that Gino finished out the year that you would not, because he's got real-time experience and he's won, and made meaningful kicks for you. And other than the first game last year, has been pretty damn good. And for goodness sakes, Gino took a wine tasting here as an elective at Texas Tech. So shout out to Gino. He stands for all the right things. I don't think that this is. I would just say I'd be stunned if you get to it. And again, maybe there's a situation where Gino just like goes 0 for 20 in the next two weeks or something, and you're like, okay, well, but I don't foresee that happening. He's just got too much street cred or too much that he's done already in big moments that I think, but it doesn't hurt to have somebody breathing down your neck, and iron sharpens iron, and you're, from a Texas Tech standpoint, you're protected, you're covered, you have insurance, and Reese certainly can make meaningful kicks too, but I just can't believe that there'd be enough that he could do in a practice situation that would overcome what Gino has already done in real game situations. Maybe that's the best way.
Yeah, like he would have to lose it in a real game setting.
Like Trey Wolf did a couple of years ago to Garibay. That's kind of what happened. And Trey was really good the year before, and then it just didn't happen. And you're thinking, like, what is going on? Garibay comes in, but then he graduated, and then Trey Wolf was really good again. It's just so
he's legendary the following year.
Yes. So you never know, But yeah, you've summed up what I was trying to say very succinctly. Yeah, he would have to lose it. I think that's very well stated. You're on point there.
Using the word stunned is what I would have to use if it were to be the other way around, which is why I say I must have been sleeping on this one, but maybe a little motivation via public comments there from the head coach, which is something that we have heard before in various settings. Okay, before we get out of here, Chris, let's get to top 25 poll, this one of the Associated Press variety. First, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors, and eBay has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride on the road, or elevate your car's game to the next level of performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, accessories of all kinds to fit your style, whether it's speed, power, or design you're into. eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to perfectly fit what you need. Just head over to ebay.com/motors, where you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and at no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions do apply. Okay, before we get out of here, Chris, let's get to top 25 poll, this one of the Associated Press variety that was released just yesterday, and a similar cast of characters from the Big 12 Conference as compared to what we saw in the coaches' top 25 released not too long ago. From the Big 12 Conference, Utah leads the way at number 12, Oklahoma State, K-State 17 and 18. You have Arizona and Kansas at 21 and 22. Iowa State, West Virginia also receiving votes. Somebody through Colorado, a pity vote, I guess, as well. I'm kind of curious, just a question.
It wasn't anybody at CBS, I promise you that.
No, it definitely was not. It was not. I was curious who you thought is the answer, if you can't say Texas Tech, that should emerge, because there are always teams that fall. I think I saw, can't remember if it was Brett McMurphy that tweeted this, but something like for the past 21 years, excluding 2019, there's been a top 10 preseason team that has finished unranked. And I think it was USC possibly last year, started out number 6. They finished number 110 or whatever it might have been. So we know that someone will emerge and rise, someone will fall. If you can't say Texas Tech from the Big 12 Conference, who comes to mind? Is it a West Virginia? Is it an Iowa State? Am I missing somebody else?
And you're talking about somebody that's not ranked at all that ends up in the top 10?
Or top 25. Top 25.
Okay, yeah, because I thought you were about to ask me who in the top 10 won't be ranked. I thought it was the backwards question. I was going to tell you that's easy. That was Michigan. I don't think Michigan will be ranked at all.
We can go ahead and throw a slide at Michigan. I got time for that every day.
Yeah, they're ranked number 9 right now. Okay, so it's probably going to come from and I don't think I'm forgetting anybody here, because you've got Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Arizona, and Kansas ranked. Mm-hmm. So of that next tier of you've got, there's, I guess, 4 to 5 programs that this answer would come from if there was a possibility. And I think they could all UCF, TCU, Iowa State, West Virginia, and then the Red Raiders. So if you're not letting me pick Texas Tech, I mean, maybe Iowa State of what I would say, because they have the most back, although and they are much like the Oklahoma States and even the Texas Techs of the world. They're usually more dangerous and better when they're not in a position where a lot is expected. But I think Iowa State has 85% of their production back from last year. They've got some possible draft picks on that team. Their problem has just been the one-score games. They've lost 13 of the last 16 of them. If they somehow get that fixed, they're probably an easy answer here, because I think there's quarterbacks back, the running backs back. They've got stud receivers. The majority of offensive line is back. They've got some I think, NFL guys on that defense. John Heacock, their defensive coordinator, is as good as anybody in the country with his scheme and squeezes, the majority out of it. West Virginia, I've got questions about their offensive line. at West Virginia, when you lose Zach Frazier, they lost a couple other guys that just played so much football and they're really good. And then always with West Virginia, can they score enough points? I think at times last year they showed that they could, but that would be my question there. And they have a brutal non-conference schedule. They play at Pitt, nightmare. They play Penn State, potential nightmare. That's potentially 2 losses, but if it's 2 wins, look out because they're going to get a lot of street cred. There may not be a bigger game in the non-conference for the Big 12 conference than West Virginia hosting Penn State. If they pull that off, because what am I seeing here? Penn State is ranked number 8. So if you pull that off, the league and West Virginia certainly will get major tips of the cap, and deservedly so.
I think, and I've mostly been a Neil Brown fan as a coach, but getting that program under him on the tracks and sustaining that, I guess I'm still in sort of I'll believe it when I see it territory. Not that it can't happen, but I would just defer to Matt Campbell if those were the 2 options. And I think those are the 2 options, Cyclones or Mountaineers, if we're not saying Texas Tech, that could emerge and wind up as a top 25 team this year. I think I'd probably throw in with Matt Campbell just from a coaching perspective. But you also mentioned the returning impact, obviously, that's there in Ames also to take into consideration. Let us know who your selection would be. Appreciate those diving into the YouTube comments to mix it up. That's one of the best ways to help us grow the show. Continue to do that. Por favor. Chris, thanks for your time as always, man. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the other side for a Hump Day edition.
Absolutely. And I'll say this about that other team. Like, I'm glad that the old Knights of UCF are not on the Red Raiders schedule. I'll just throw that out there. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Well, let somebody else deal with those problems because they got some speed that it'll hurt you now if you're not paying attention or if you don't have it to match. And the Gus Bus. I mean, he knows what he's doing. So
that's true.
There you go. But appreciate it. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. Fun to talk ball, man. We're getting closer, and it's fun to start talking about some of these kinds of things. And we're about to get games and all that just on the horizon.
That's right. I think we've got maybe 1 week remaining after this one. Sans college football, so that'll be fun whenever it does arrive. We'll have a big build up to that first weekend, and then we'll think, man, these are some crummy games. But that's not. That's not what we're thinking right now. We're desperate for 11 on 11. All right, Chris, appreciate your time and everybody out there for joining us. As always, for Chris, I'm Casey. Make sure you get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.